goes into the. That's why you don't really discuss it in like public. As soon as you're like, I don't think they do like a really good job of representing everyone and actually looking into who does the best work and blah blah blah. People are gonna be like, well, who do you think doesn't? And then it gets into awkward like, oh, I don't want to talk about people who don't deserve it. No, that's too awkward. No, stop it. Anyways, I've talked about that before, but I had nothing else to talk about while waiting for this best of 5 to get set up. Now that it's here, let's talk about Starcraft. In the top right, as the red Protoss for Team Roddy, he is Goblin. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. He is Mouse HeRoMaRinE. Mouse. Meows. So someone earlier asked if I had a schedule. I do indeed. I do try to keep the actual Twitch schedule up to date. I'm not super good about it though. But I generally have like the same schedule, usually. I keep my Google Calendar schedule up to date much more reliably, which you can check out when you click on the schedule button down below. So while I do have a generally set schedule, I will say that next week is going to be full of DreamHack Winter qualifiers. So I plan to cast everyone except the one on the Friday. I'll be taking my cats with a bit. So that will be very different stream schedule-wise. Just heads up to all y'all. Goblin goes for a Cybernetics core before Nexus, but that is not odd at all. And both of them are getting their scout on. Get him! Get him, SDV! Why don't you use the minerals? Whack it over the head. Come on now. SDV of HeRoMaRinE goes and check on Goblin. Now Goblin, he can be a little bit cheesy. He can be a little bit weird. He is kind of on the Void Ray hype train, at least for the PvZ side of things. But he's not quite like a Max Pax, right? I would say that Max Pax is generally, if not always, doing something cheesy, hidden, proxied, whatever. I don't think Goblin does. I think Goblin has maybe more so a weird style of macro play. So his choices and his compositions can be a little bit off-kilter, a little bit different from the other Protosses that we consider standard. But that's about it. Like, I don't think HeRoMaRiNE's necessarily super paranoid of the Void Ray all-in. That said, I do believe if Goblin were to go down 0-2 against HeRoMaRiNE, I think he could pull it out, especially on a map that's good for it. I can definitely see Goblin doing that. So bunker finishes up, but the obnoxious thing about this is that they don't have to deal with the bunker. They can run past the bunker. So ideally, this is the command center finished. And then the Adept comes through, which is exactly what happened here for HeRoMaRiNE. Goblin with the Stargate opener, we've seen this every Pillars of Gold game so far, cast all the TvPs, is going right into Phoenix. No pit stop at an Oracle, so right into Phoenix. Let's see, Colossus with the 2 gases on the way, gonna be going into Colossus. And that's something that HeRoMaRiNE would love to scout. He's got a Helmling that's gonna go into the natural and see both gases taken if he wanted to. Actually just checks the 3rd, which is also good information. If it was a very quick charge build, then I'd say it was pretty likely that this would be Nexus already down. Something that we saw from Skillus. Not last game, but the second game, I believe. Yeah, you can fit that Nexus in at even 330 if you really wanted to. It's one of the greedier Nexus you can get, though. If not the greediest, I think it's the greediest. But anyways, I'll digress. The Helling doesn't go into the natural, so 100%, maybe not. 90%, I think so. I think he's going to think it is just Colossus. There's got to be a little bit of question marks because it is Goblin for all the things I just mentioned where it's like, oh, is he playing something really weird? Like, but I mean, what would be really weird, right? Like, Goblin isn't gonna mothership rush the Terran player. I wouldn't think. So, I don't think HeRoMaRinE necessarily is worried about scouting right now. Robotics Bay is finally slapped down. So after the third Nexus, usually there's got to be a little bit of give, right? Sometimes you see a much later third Nexus. Sometimes you see a no forge, which is what Goblin is going for. Sometimes you see, gosh, what else can we do? Like no gateways, I guess, which is all, like kind of also what's happening here, right? But anyways, like you can't just get all of the things together, although I know many people will say Protoss can. Many people will play the game and see a Protoss with everything and go, oh, what a bullshit race. But there's definitely sacrifices here and there. So it's either the later third or the delayed forge is what I would put it down to, if it is Phoenix Colossus. That forge, it'll eventually come down. It'll eventually have double upgrades probably too, but HeRoMaRinE is going to be, I guess, secure in the knowledge he'll have that faster. What he won't have is really a push to punish this third Nexus, despite the very low unit count of Goblin right now. Obviously, he's only got this handful of units and a Colossus on the way. Most of his units count is in Phoenix, which, going back to the last series, is like, they are very useful. Don't underestimate Phoenix, but in a direct fight, if there are 30 Marines with stamina underneath them, they're probably not going to be that helpful. So HeRoMaRinE plays it nice and cautious, nice and safe. Third CC comes out. It's obviously a lot later than Goblin, and Goblin has successfully kind of done his build, done his thing, which was not the greediest thing he could do. But having all of his saturation already down and set is quite nice. It's quite nice feeling. And here's where we see something specific to Goblin. So it does happen. He's getting a fleet beacon right now. I believe I've seen Goblin go into Phoenix range, plus some carrier production in the past. We don't have any second Stargate, and this forge might only be mostly used for building cannons. We'll see about that, but no second Stargate with a fleet beacon? I'm gonna put a question mark on this one. I'd like to say that I think I know Goblin a bit, but definitely not that much. Yeah, it is going to be Anium Pulse Crystals, and +1 as well. I just don't know if it's really that great. I mean, that is the question when it comes down to these odder players, right? These odd plays. They can be great in certain situations, and they can be great against slightly worse players who aren't quite hitting their timings, don't quite have that pretty perfect macro. But when you do face, you know, inevitably a Korean or a guy like HeRoMaRinE, you're kind of getting more tested than usual on the ladder. And then it usually doesn't work. But I'll talk about why there are some strengths here in a second after this battle. We'll see how it goes. HeRoMaRinE has a single drop in the main. It looks like denying a lot of mining, which is going to be... Oh, it's actually just a Raven. That's a lot of mining to be denied, though. But with the army as it is, HeRoMaRinE does not feel comfortable against it. It's going to back away. Lots of shield batteries were prepared. 3 Colossus, obviously pretty scary for a mostly Marine army right now, and pretty safe play from HeRoMaRinE. This will not be the first time he's faced this, or faced Goblin in general. Worth noting. And it wouldn't be the first time that we've seen a successful transfer into carriers after this. I feel like the last time I saw it didn't work out too well. When was the last time I actually saw this work? I'm sure it has worked, but I don't think personally I've seen it work yet against these top Terrans, but we'll see. So Disruptor Carrier eventually, so kind of skipping a lot of portions of PvT. You know, hypothetically, the actual late game PvT is Carrier, Tempest, Disruptor, whatever, Storm as well, and all that good stuff, but usually there's a very long, drawn-out back and forth before that. Skipping the process can work out sometimes, other times it cannot. This double drop does deep power and take out a decent amount of stack defense. Gonna focus fire down some of the Phoenix while he can. The thing about dealing with Phoenix players is that if you commit to something, you really commit. The retreat is usually not an option, and certainly when it comes to just a handful of Marines and a handful of medevacs, retreat is certainly not an option. So, it's something that I think HeRoMaRinE is only doing because he's going to give away a certain amount of units anyways to build up his plan. So I think upon identifying what this actually was, getting a faster fourth in a different type of game, second starport was finalizing by the time he actually got the scout and how many Phoenix there were, and then just perfecting his army as much as Goblin is, basically. Like, I've seen some discussion around this super late game on like the TL forums, which are always, a very pleasant place to be. And I forget what people were saying, but I think someone was arguing that the Terran army is always better. Or that, I think they were arguing that the Protoss army is really shit. I think that's what the argument was. It was something pretty like, it was over the top, like there's a lot of nuance I think to these super late game armies, but anyways, oh yeah, because like Mara went mass Vikings against this, and someone was like, that's not the way you do it. And he was like, what other way is there? But anyways, I'm not here to make fun of Team Liquid posters. Well, sometimes I am, but not right now. Mass Viking is generally one of the ways you would deal with it. But the thing is, you really have to be good about your micro for both sides, actually. The Vikings' greatest strength is their range. And the carrier's greatest strength is kind of getting latched onto a unit, right? If they're surprised and they're like, oh shoot, let me shoot my interceptors, they kind of suck. If they're already shooting out the interceptors and they have plenty of them, and there's 5 or 6 carriers, it's actually kind of intimidating. It's actually very scary. But, the idea is that you get a decent number of Vikings with a couple of fantastic EMPs, and it makes it so much easier to deal with. And, like, hypothetically, that was a really cute dodge there. An even better army, when you're up against someone who actually does make ground army like Disruptors, is also including some Liberators in here, which create even more of a micro-oriented process. Can you snipe the Liberators, or can the Liberators actually get siege and start a slow hop process, which is what HeRoMaRiNE's already doing, just with missile turrets. And you actually get to a situation where you're like mostly Viking Liberator Ghost with some bio used for like run-bys, which is kind of what's happening here. So much of the emphasis on the right side that Goblin did not have anything on the left to scout this or deny it from killing his fourth Nexus, sorry. Vikings try and grab a freebie carrier, which I'm guessing they did. They did. Not freebie, though. It did strike back pretty quickly. But even a Colossus going down as Goblin thinks he's about to be pushing the right side, he actually moves his army too fast back to the right without actually fully clearing up HeRoMaRiNE's. So HeRoMaRiNE's gonna grab kind of a 2-for-1 deal here. 4th base goes down and 5th base. And his army on the right side is actually still kind of intimidating. You would say, oh, that's a lot of bio. And so much of his army supply is also reinforcements. Like, why doesn't Goblin just simply steamroll over the right side? It wouldn't be so easy with the EMPs threatening everything. And the Viking count's still decent, although 2 less now. And the missile turret is helping out as well with high-sec auto-tracking. It actually would be a little scary. So I don't blame Goblin for being scared, but that does... That's a problem for him, He didn't get anything from that. He literally just lost 2 Nexus and was like, oh, okay. Yeah, that's it. That's all that happened. I didn't do anything to you. So HeRoMaRiNE not only still has his army all situated on the right side, he also is getting a bunch of command centers and already expanding to his 5th base. So Goblin, he's not in a super dangerous position yet because he has a huge bank, and he still has a good late-game army. This is the type of situation that makes you a little more uncomfortable. Now you're down to like, well, if I do take an engagement, I am fairly all in. Not sure what Goblin's plan is. Vikings kind of shooting everything. Doesn't really work out that way. A mostly Marauder army to the left, once again finding an under-defended 4th base. This time there were units there, it's not enough. So another cancel. I mean, with Goblin having a couple of shield batteries, I guess he's not usually so concerned about losing any units off to the right side. But... eventually HeRoMaRiNE might just max out on, as I was saying, like a Viking Ghost army. No Liberators are bothered to be made here. He's pretty much just focusing on the Vikings, but EMP hits the carriers. I want to say that was one EMP that just took out all the shields. That's what it looked like. With Goblin finally finding a little bit of courage, maybe his +2 being done, finally giving him a little bit more to work with. He is actually pushing through. HeRoMaRinE initially retreats, and then decides to engage, but a bit of an awkward engagement. That wasn't all of his Vikings. Another EMP hits, but he needs those 14 Vikings actually collected together and focus firing down the units. There we go now. Disruptors are going to be split against. I mean, the tanks couldn't split, but are they really the most important thing right now? The Vikings, however, did not win the air war. I don't think HeRoMaRinE had enough emphasis on the air. But the interceptor count, ooh, the interceptor count, down to 22. So, I mean, he didn't, like, slaughter the air war, but he certainly didn't lose it either.
Thank you for
HeRoMaRinE will be remaxing, I think, a bit more reliably from here on out, as Goblin still does not grab his 4th Nexus, only just now slapping that down. Might want to try and double expand. Yeah, that's exactly what he's doing, as he needs to catch up there. But, yeah, HeRoMaRinE, I feel like you really need to be up to, like, 26. I'm going to say 26 Vikings, and then you can feel really confident. And hopefully they have a couple of upgrades, too. Goblin's been working only a single S7X core. It's not like he is the most amazing upgrades, but it is definitely a situation where the carriers and the way their interceptors are fast shooters, their attack upgrades are really more intimidating than the Viking upgrades, which Vikings tend to... Ooh, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Not overshoot, not overpower. God damn. Overkill. Jeez, I was like, oh, it's something. I'm close to it. Vikings tend to overkill. So, you know, you target one carrier with like 27 Vikings, probably only need 20, but all 27 are going to target, right? So anyways, I actually like seeing that the armor upgrade's on the way. And now HeRoMaRinE not only adding in some Liberators like I was talking about earlier, but also going to be adding in some nukes, which I fucking love. Didn't even notice that in the production tab. It is seen at the last second by Goblin is going to move away his probes for the most part, and the Nexus should survive. This Nexus, however, at the very far left, not going to survive and not even canceled. Another nuke immediately to the right side. Oh no, it's actually in the middle. Oh, that's in the middle. Oh, we're going to grab a couple of probes. It does miss the army. This goes 2 shots to probes. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't. Oh, it's on hold position. It's not going to reveal itself. Not only hold position, but it's actually tucked away its gun, which is an option on Ghosts. Anyways, this is going to get a little bit weird. 3-3 is finishing up for HeRoMaRinE. Is also still continuing on with his upgrades for his Vikings. The Viking count currently at 7 is actually not that impressive. He went into Liberator production, which... Oh, there's an ideal world where Liberators actually take out most of the Interceptors, but I'm not sure that was it. Still 50 Interceptors, so just 7 Vikings, and now 2 Liberators of HeRoMaRinE. More nukes going down, more Nexus being canceled and or killed. HeRoMaRinE has a lot of bases to lose before his production is actually under fire, so I think inevitably it goes in HeRoMaRinE's favor, but his engagements have not actually been as dominating. Not nearly dominating, they've actually just not gone as well as he would hope. They're in fact going sometimes awfully poorly. So HeRoMaRinE... It'd be very frustrating to lose this because he just doesn't have enough anti-air. That is a scary portion of facing 15 carriers. Now, as I believe more than 1 command center, that was maybe 3 going down there, plus this one I think was denied. These still not quite being denied, but with 2 carriers, they eventually will be. Goblin is going to lose more probes, take more damage on his Nexus. Goblin down to 13 workers, but his armor supply is looking hella fierce, and he's got that +3 upgrade for his Interceptors. This is actually still very, very close. I don't know if HeRoMaRinE's army is quite confident. Like, he's going for the Liberator tactic, which is a dangerous thing to do. As we saw, even with 6 Liberators, I don't know, the perfect Liberator shot on top of the Interceptors, it doesn't happen that often. As we saw, the Vikings almost capable of one-shotting the carriers. I think would have been a stronger option if you can one-shot and back away, and then, again, the Interceptors have to come out. But it's not quite happening. He is going to go for the Interceptors again. So 102 Interceptors. He cancels the defensive nuke. At this point, he might actually be hoping that Goblin just simply can't replace the Interceptors, which he might actually be right about. The Goblin actually running out of minerals right now, but still with a hell of a lot of carriers, and the Vikings have all gone down. 13 carriers still alive against 24 Marines, and HeRoMaRinE is out of gas right now. That's his main problem. He's out of gas. And I had total faith in HeRoMaRinE dealing with this composition, but maybe I should not have. Once again, going for the Liberator is going to try and take down the Interceptors, but it's just not working. It's not... I think this is it. I think Goblin wins with the army. He's on top of the production. GG, Goblin does it. Oh, no. Oh, that feels so bad. Oh, man, sometimes I'm a little bit happy because that happens, though, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just glad to see someone as fucking good as HeRoMaRinE also die to similar kind of, I was gonna say BS, but that's a little bit too, too biased. It's something like that. You know, the old, I think I'm pretty much winning this game, but yet your army's a little bit too good. Well, fuck. Like, that's, ooh, it's a frustrating loss, but it happens, even to the best of them. So, I gotta say again, I think, from what I've seen, right? So, first of all, thank you, really, Kozan. And I guess that's really you, for the tier 1 sub. Yeah, this is all from what I've seen, right? There's this thing where, like, some people, they just want to, like, hate on casters, probably, but maybe they're also think we're actually flawed. I don't know. But they're like, they think we base our like knowledge and our anticipation off of like our own games, which I would say rarely happens. I think playing the game gives you a little more intuition as to how dynamics work, sure, but from what I've seen, the last time we actually had a handful of super, super late game PvT, which, you know, is a rarity, and that's part of the problem for some of the Terrans. But what I saw was like Dream, I think. He actually was doing something really sick, which was actually, like, going for Viking Lib Ghost, and then splitting up his army in, like, multiple directions, which is really super cool. Not very easy to pull off, and very expensive as well. But, anyways, regardless of the whole, like, you know, hitting 3 places at once with a complicated, micro-based army, he also, was literally just on Viking Liberator Ghost. Like, really. He had maybe 20 supply of bio units that he would use to deny further expansions. But that was kind of it. And I saw that and I was like, well, we don't get here often enough to be like, well, everyone, you know, come in and learn. Everyone, this is the way to go. Because it was like a once in a 200 game. But I do think that's actually the way to go. It is a bit questionable, though. And I think you're best off asking Goblin how he loses there. To get the real answer. But from what I've seen, HeRoMaRiNE's Viking count wasn't actually high enough. 15 isn't quite enough. And by quite enough, I mean actually not nearly enough. I said 27, I think, at one point. So, you know, almost doubling the amount of Vikings he had, I think actually would have been the better option. So then you one-shot the carrier, and then you run away. So when you one-shot the carrier, you do lose some Vikings, but you don't take an actual trade and you just reinforce. And then hopefully you're also doing what HeRoMaRinE was doing, which is denying Goblin further expansions. But, you know, best case scenario is that we get to see a similar game and HeRoMaRinE thinks about it and wonders what to do and then fixes it and we get to see what he does. I guess many people would say that he just shouldn't have let Goblin get there, blah, 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 but it happens. Submarine is our next map, though, and I don't think we're going to see late game carriers. In the top left, up 1, he is Goblin. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran, we got HeRoMaRiNE. Some people bring up BCs, which battlecruisers win against late game Protoss. Of this, I am 90% sure. I actually think that if there was a world where both races got to that situation in similar positions, similar bases, similar economies, similar bank, similar upgrades, whatever, I actually think BCs are so much better. It's actually kind of frustrating, but it doesn't happen, so no one cares. But I don't think that was necessarily a situation where HeRoMaRiNE could have done that. You know, maybe if HeRoMaRiNE from when he built that 4th base, if he had decided right then and there to add on 2 more starports and tech labs and a fusion core, maybe he could have done that. And then I think battlecruisers do win. Their ability to Yamato and teleport out is very strong. And then you also can add an EMPs, which then, if you EMP a carrier, it goes from being 2-shot Yamato to 1-shot Yamato, I think. It's been a while since I've talked about it, though. But I think that's a tip on my YouTube tips and tricks series. So someone go find it and remind me. So very effective stuff. Some people probably are going to bring up Thors. I think Thors can be an option, but the problem with Thors is that they're really weak against disruptors because they're fat and slow. So Goblin would have just bopped, say, like 4 Thors with 4 disruptors. And it wouldn't have been a trade, too, right? Disruptors would just stay alive and continue bopping Thors left and right. So, you know, I don't think you really... I don't think you can do Thors there. Yeah. It's going to be a lot of hypothesizing. For HeRoMaRinE, you know, of course, he can't really sit there and think about this all damn day long. He's going to play. For Goblin, he's probably just going to like kind of fist pump at the end of that and be like, it worked, it worked, it worked. But one of the crucial things about that working is getting to, I want to say about 8 carriers is when the Terran or the Zerg, whatever, start to go, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. Before that, they're kind of like, I can handle this, it's fine. Carriers and BCs kind of have a similar effect. With whatever race you are going up against either one, but you know what I'm saying? Like those turtle guys on ladder, and initially you're like, oh, BCs, they're so dumb, it's not gonna work. And then suddenly it's 8 BCs, and you're like, oh no, I made a mistake. But I'm not sure Goblin can rely on actually getting there. If that is what he's going to do for this best of 5, I think Goblin ultimately loses. But Goblin isn't necessarily a one-trick pony. I do think he finds a trick and then gets attached to it for a while. But then he finds another trick and gets attached to that. And it's kind of like... It's like a merry-go-round of one-trick ponies. That was an amazing metaphor. I'm actually really proud of that one. But anyways. I think he could bring something else out, which is also what HeRoMaRinE is keeping in mind. You know, HeRoMaRinE went for a high ground expansion because it's submarine. And it's Goblin. And he's down 1 as well, so, you know, maybe Goblin tries to really get a second game real quick. So very safe play from the Blue Terran. Eventually scouts that Goblin is, in fact, just going for a Stargate in his own natural nexus. 2 gases again here, so into Colossus. And I guess Goblin is going to try and play the shield battery game again, but I think that's so difficult to do. I guess the upside of doing this on Submarine is that the 3rd and 4th base are kind of closer together than other maps where you're going literally from the far right to the far left. So that could be a bit nicer to save compared to the last game. Downside is that, you know, snowballs happen a lot quicker. And in this case, I feel like the snowball of the Terran is going to be a little more threatening. A little bit of a poke in the beginning, trying to catch Goblin off guard, trying to catch Goblin with no shield battery, which it wasn't actually done, but also with the Phoenix not in location, not in the right spot. I'm trying to think, there's a different word for that, but anyways. Doesn't actually net him anything. The Phoenixes were around, helped out by the Adepts, and HeRoMaRiNE's little push doesn't start off great, because apparently he's not done. He does not want to play a similar game to last time. He wants to win. Already starting things off very poorly, though. So the initial push did not catch Goblin off guard, and then he's going to lose his Viking, which kind of starts a snowball process. Now, Goblin, I don't know if he realizes what's happening, so this might still work. He's been distracted by a Viking in the main, a Viking from the kind of thirds coming in as well. I don't know if Goblin realized what was happening. Goblin did not. So that's awkward. Alright, so this actually turns around then. So Goblin, if he had gotten that one Viking and then went, oh shit, and ran back home, I think he can at least stop some of the bunkers from coming up. But now it's, can he still do that? Okay. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so the real worry was that he didn't know it was on the way, but it looks like he's fine. Oh no, he's out of energy! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh wait, no, Phoenix ran out of energy. Oh no! He couldn't lift up that Cyclone. That Cyclone would have been a freebie. Or close to it. Oh, Goblin is still gonna lose? He's got a 3rd Nexus. And only 1 tank is firing on his Nexus right now, but like, finally gets the energy back. Oh, barely doesn't lose that 1 Phoenix. HeRoMaRinE is going to rally forward. This is seen by the Observer. I mean, he's also getting a 3rd. Yeah, it's done. And then also getting his barracks up, but I think HeRoMaRinE really wants to get this Nexus. I don't know if it's going to happen, though. 2 shield batteries come in, gonna recharge. Inevitably, Goblin will have more production than just the Phoenix he's shown. But, ooh, 2 Cyclone lock-ons. Ooh, gonna grab it. Marine's also gonna focus fire down with some of the weak Phoenix. So many of them have been weak for so long. Another Phoenix goes down. He's clearing up the reinforcements, but he's gonna lose another 2 Phoenix as he disengages. This Disruptor might be able to hit, ideally, maybe 3 units. That's gonna go for the Cyclone. That would be pretty ideal. We got 1 Void Ray that's being, okay, just stacked up on top of the shield batteries. Oh man, this is really complicated. Second Disruptor is here. I think he's gonna want both shots though. 2 Vikings. Not quite both of them being torn down, but all of the Phoenix have, not all of them have died, but enough have died. The Phoenix aren't really so much a threat anymore. It's gonna be the bust. Bunkers are full. Disruptors go for 2 tanks. Actually, don't quite grab the second one. I think the Disruptor got target fired. Is that what happens? Ooh. The second tank does finally go down, but the bunkers are all still standing. Oh, 2 Void Rays. Need to be careful with so many Marines and the fact that they have to go so far away from the shield battery. I mean, it's not like it's 16 Marines with stim, but Void Rays are glass cannons. Finally grab the bunker. Goblin has been producing some probes on his third, so this is a very awkward game, but Goblin's still gonna try and survive. I think it's done too much, though. It's just taking so long to clear up. It's taking so long. And here it's not even done. He actually unsieges, but only to reposition, so Goblin... I feel like it would have been so different. It would have been so different if his Phoenix had actually, like, immediately come on home. I feel like it would have been. Because then, not only would the Phoenix have come on home, but, you know, ideally he goes, oh shit, even sooner than that. And he's like, oh, there's a follow-up. So he adds a second pylon, a second shield battery, and maybe, if he's not warping in, because a lot of times you wouldn't if you're doing, like, something like this, building robo units, building Stargate units, he actually does warp in, right? Like, it just seems like he was really blindsided by the follow-up push. Or he thought the first push was dealt with so nicely that there's no way HeRoMaRinE would have tried the second one, you know? But he did. Trying to break this slightly before the upgrades were done, but Stim and +1 have both kicked in, and Goblin is going to have to tap out a submarine, I think. It was a little bit scary there for HeRoMaRinE. He wanted to stop a macro game from happening, and I think he's eventually successful, but in the beginning it was like, I don't know. Is it working? Well, it has worked. GG. HeRoMaRinE fights back on one of the shortest maps. There's actually another short map of the same rush distance in the map pool now. I think what it also did for HeRoMaRinE, not only giving a point on the board, but I think it also just confirms that Goblin is going to do that for the best of 5. Again, you don't want to just say 100% he's only going to do that, but after a second game on one of the smallest maps, he tries at least a very similar opener again. I think it's going to give HeRoMaRinE a little more confidence to do things like that. I think he's on to Goblin's tricks. Game 3 will be on Lightshade, which, funnily enough, is the other map with the same rush distance. has submarine. All right. In the top left of Lightshade, we have the Red Protoss Goblin. In the bottom right, as the Blue Terran, he is HeRoMaRinE. Tying up the series, heading into another short map. 33 seconds. From natural to natural. So, it's possible the players don't quite know that. There is a kind of a little bit of an argument, shall we say, between map makers and pros for a little while there. Calm down after a couple, like a month or something like that. But, where, you know, these pros were using words like large and small, and the map makers getting really upset because it wasn't true. They'd say a map is large, and then it would be the shortest rush distance map, you know, or something like that. And this wasn't, you know, the casters would also be weak to it, but the pros were also saying it. So it did kind of raise a question mark to if the pros read into the actual distance between natural to natural. I would not be surprised if they don't. There are very technically minded pros, and then there are pros who do a lot of intuition. A lot of intuition. You know, they'll know that A equals B plus C equals D plus F, or what have you, but they won't know exactly, like, the size of the map. Or they won't quite remember, like, what the health pool is, but they'll know that X 3 shots Y. And you'll say, okay, why? And they'll be like, well, it just does. Unless you have an upgrade. Like, they'll know that, but they want us to really know about the health pool, right? Anyways, this whole point of me saying this is that I'm not actually sure that players have identified this as a very short rush distance yet. Of course, feeling-wise, when they're playing it, they probably recognize it as a shorter distance. I'm sure about that, but I'm not sure they realize that it is just as short as submarine. That would be a little bit more question mark. And where submarine has such an emphasis as such a what's the word? Like, you feel like you should attack on submarine. You know? Like, everyone felt what HeRoMaRinE was doing. You just faced a mass carrier guy, you're on the shortest map, do the fucking tank push. I'm not sure you would feel the same on Lightshade. The difference of Lightshade and submarine, of course, is that the actual size of the map, not just the rush distance, but the size, like the whole dimensions, is bigger. So, another reason why maybe doing that attack wouldn't quite work out as well, because there's more avenues of attack for the defending player compared to submarine. I'm personally trying to figure out if it would be a good idea for HeRoMaRinE to do something similar. Not just because it does the actual map allow it, but also wouldn't Goblin be a little bit wiser to it? So with HeRoMaRinE certainly starting things off normal. Okay, he's gonna add a tab, wouldn't mind. Would he do the same thing? I guess not. It's a Reaper, gets a bit of a scout. Helen gets a follow-up scout. The confirmation of the 2 gases not gonna happen quite yet, as they aren't here. So gets in, sees Phoenix producing. That's one part of the scout. Checks for anything like a faster Twilight Council. Could be a different Stargate opener. Doesn't see anything at all. That's 2 probes, though. That's pretty effective. So not just the Wood of Mine, but also Marines in here. Kind of like the Marine edition, it means that the Phoenix actually have to stop and think, do I actually want to try and help deal with this? Where if it's just the Wood of Mines, if it's just the medevac, they pull away the probe, they bring the Phoenix in after detonating the Wood of Mine, and they chase down the medevac as well. The Marines, well, they don't have stim, but they can actually still kind of tangle with the limited amount of Phoenix they right now have. Which is at 4. They do find a kind of free Viking, that's always nice. Stalker's gonna lose its life to the Wood of Mine, which is not really ideal there. Phoenix not only scouted and took down a Viking, but also scouted this kind of mini push to the left. It's a bit questionable if it's actually gonna be any more of a push, though. It's gonna find no Nexus to cancel, but the main base has lost a lot of mining time. Phoenix, one of them's gonna be target fired, but not die. Wasn't the weak one. And then clear up the natural, I guess, as a priority. The Phoenix rush back over there and make sure that the similar situation doesn't happen as last game. So that means the medevac actually may be able to fly away. I think Goblin was in such a hurry to make sure that the bunkers didn't get up in the natural that he maybe missed an opportunity. Maybe it wasn't super necessary, but I definitely see what problems letting something go for even a little while can cause. That was kind of all what happened last game. It was like, well, initially it didn't look so bad, but then it snowballs pretty quickly. The depowering of the Robo was a bummer, but Robotics Bay, I mean, I think it finished not too long ago, so pretty quickly into Colossus yet still. There he goes. 80 gas off, yeah, he'll live. And more Phoenix being produced, because of course. HeRoMaRinE did pull back. He maybe thought about reinforcing, but he did pull back. Still has 2 Cyclones, still has 0 Vikings, actually. He lost all of his Vikings. Or stopped producing them. Yeah, only made 1. A double Cyclone wants to catch any Phoenix that it can. With the Observer now hovering over the army, it gets a little less likely. I'm wondering if HeRoMaRinE will even bother using a scan for that one. If he didn't see it, he probably just heard it. I remember when this was first implemented, the surveillance mode was first implemented, that sieging and unsieging was the loudest damn thing. And it was so obvious. But I think they actually reduced the sound of it. Or I'm crazy, and they didn't do anything at all. Does bother to scan for it, and I do like the decision a lot. Not only, you know, for all the usual reasons as to why denying vision from an opponent is important in StarCraft, it is important, but also because you know that they're going to have even more emphasis than usual for a Robo player. When you usually talk about Robo players talking about only a certain number of Phoenix, and then they're moving on to Charge, and they're relying on some other things as well. But we know Goblin is actually kind of all about just Stargate, just Robo, so producing another Observer, not really going to be something he wants to do. So I really like that scan. Oh, drop in the main. I didn't even notice it, and then my camera went on it. Colossus pops out. Perfect timing, actually, against just Marines, too, so really perfect timing. I don't think it'll be killed. Robotic Space not going to be able to be target fired. So far, solid on the defense, but Goblin is only on 3 bases, guys. So, unlike that first game, where he was very smoothly, very easily onto a 3rd base, he is the exact opposite here. The 3rd base was supposed to come down, but then he saw a push, and he was like, okay, I have to take this seriously. Didn't bother slapping down the Nexus. It would have been canceled anyways. And then everything else is happening, and he is prioritizing an actual 2-base push over getting into the 3-base carrier stuff that maybe HeRoMaRinE is anticipating. But it looks like HeRoMaRinE, with the amount of scouting he's done based off of his pushes, seeing the army come to the middle of the map, is actually realized it's no longer about getting to the macro game. It is about trying to push into him right here, right now. He's got a bunker done and 4 siege tanks already sieged, which seems to me like it's already a hold. Unless the Phoenix want to sacrifice themselves on top of a decent amount of Marines, which they might just try and do. Those tanks are going to hold against that much ground army. I mean, it's not even super impressive yet. Right now, the most impressive number is the Phoenix at 10. Make that 9. Just kidding. Barely got a division. Got a single Marine drop off to the natural where there is no defense. Shield battery could help out a couple of Zealots, I suppose. But Goblin looks like he's reevaluating. He's like, you know what? I'm not going to go for the push. And I think he's right about that. I don't think he would have done a successful push. Maybe it would have been a little bit of a trade, but a trade where HeRoMaRiNE's on 3 bases. And Goblin is still only on 2. That said, that is the main problem. That is the problem whether he pushes or not. He is so late to the 3rd base. I mean, his Colossus attack, which would have been very clever, I think, in a game where not as much has happened to throw him off, doesn't look that clever. But HeRoMaRinE was doing so many things that I think Goblin's build was already thrown off. I think maybe that was a oh, I guess I don't get my third Nexus decision. It wasn't even exactly what he was planning to do. Kind of felt that way anyways with the pylon and the timing of his gateways, but regardless, right now, 10 minutes did not look very impressive for Goblin, and HeRoMaRinE has a 50 supply lead. Scan to see if there's an observer, I guess just usually one there. Nothing's gonna see this. Well, Hallucination just saw it. Goblin's gonna try and get in position to defend. 40 armor supply difference. 1-1 upgrades against 0-0. HeRoMaRinE should win this, but I mean, to say to win it easily might be a little bit disingenuous. You need to be a little bit careful, but I think he's fine. You know, don't just, like, not take your tanks. It's gonna be a decent concave. Phoenix torn apart, trying to lift tanks to the best of their ability, but not really something that was gonna happen. GG. Alright, game 4 is going to be on Jagannatha. All right. The top right is the red Protoss. He is Goblin. In the bottom left is the blue Terran. We got HeRoMaRinE. Jagannatha has a, what, middle rush distance? 35 seconds. So, you know, of our old maps... Let's see here. That is the old maps. So, Stethor was 39. Pillars was 37. All of the new maps are shorter rush distances than the old maps. You can say that. Blanket statement.
Twitch Prime sub received. Thank you for appeasing the Overmind.
Thank you very much, Albino Rhino YYC, for the 19-month resub. Great casting. Have a good day, chat and ZD. Thank you very much. Got a probe scout trying to deny the command center as long as possible. Goblin has gone for the Reaper cliff wall off. I almost said the Reaper whiff claw off. That would have been unintentionally clever. The Nexus goes down, and we continue on. So Goblin might have his best opportunity to go for another macro game on this map, considering it's a little bit longer. than the previous two. But this is one of those maps where I'm like, where exactly is the third ideal? Is it over here? Is it over here? I mean, I would assume it's over here. And that's where we saw Skillless take it, right? Did we? This is what I'm saying. This is one of those question mark ones. Maybe it really isn't supposed to be a question mark, but for me, it is a question mark. What does the LE in so many maps stand for? I'm glad you asked, because I have nothing else to talk about right now. With them both doing very similar things in the previous games. LE stands for Ladder Edition. Now, this used to be very important because, one, Ladder Editions and Tournament Editions, so TE, used to be different. Star Station, I think, is an example of one where the Ladder and the Tournament Edition were different. So you would have also, like, back in the day, an MLG had a slightly different version compared to an IEM, and compared to the Ladder, or maybe they'd even used a map that wasn't even in Ladder, right? Like, Fruitland for GSL. It was also important because there were people making fake maps. So if it didn't say, you know, LE and by Blizzard on the publishing side for the lobby, you might accidentally be making a map that has spine crawler range set to 50. Why people did this, I'm not sure. Probably the same people who joined games under fake official names and then spam chat because they're trolls. So yeah, it's that's kind of it actually. So I guess we'll be paying close attention to that third Nexus timing. Goblin is obviously willing to do something a bit different, and I want to kind of highlight how clever that last game could have been if it didn't go so awkwardly for him. Which again is going to be a little bit awkward. HeRoMaRinE is doing just slightly different variations of earlier pushes every time. So this one's going to include the Cyclone very fast. The medevac with Marines actually just going through the middle of the map as opposed to dropping in the main, which is what Goblin is anticipating, and thus will be out of position. Goblin would have done something very clever last game, which is to make it appear like a macro build, and then maybe even, yeah, kind of fake out getting the third Nexus, like he faked me out, with actually going for a 2-base Colossus all-in, which can be pretty devastating when you're not prepared for it. But I think one of the problems is that HeRoMaRinE was continuing to produce tanks, and HeRoMaRinE did figure it out. So he was also, like, mentally prepared and a bunker and all that good stuff. So I think Goblin can be very clever, but unfortunately, back to kind of the standard, I want to get to my macro 3 Nexus, not going so hot. The bunker's on the way, the Nexus is being injured, and that is a pretty done Nexus, so this cancel is going to really hurt. And even a Viking in the main base really getting some damage, getting some mining time. Nexus was canceled, so that's the good news. And I'm not sure there's much more damage to be done, is the other kind of good news. But Goblin has already taken a pretty potent hit to his macro. This was not great for him. And if I didn't anticipate him going for the carrier thing again, I'd be like, well, maybe he can make it up for like a Warp Prism Zealot bomb later on. Or, you know, foregoing upgrades and having a stronger army than HeRoMaRinE anticipated, or something like that, right? But because I think Goblin is still going to try and go for the macro game. Hello? Phoenix, please? Phoenix, please? Because I think that he is, I think this just interrupts his plan. Like, I'm not sure he actually gets to those carriers very well at all without everything going swimmingly for him in the early game. Which means that one of the first games he plays against HeRoMaRinE is probably very good for him, because HeRoMaRinE is known as a macro player, a guy who's willingly going to go into a fast 3rd CC or into a 4th CC. And that was ultimately what happened in the first game. So Goblin's style actually does work out against HeRoMaRinE if HeRoMaRinE doesn't figure it out. But HeRoMaRinE, even by doing a push, even if it looks a little bit unsuccessful, even if it's like, oh, well, maybe you could have gotten 12 probes, I think if it still pushes Goblin off a little, I think it actually is probably pretty effective. Just with the way that Goblin's style has to ramp up to be really scary. How do they get those logos on the map? So you download an add-on, and then you put it in your StarCraft 2 folder, and maps load with the interface. Oh, Colossus! Oh, Colossus gets locked down by that cyclone. Oh, saved! And saved by the tanks. Nope, just kidding, went down. Well, it was almost saved. Still good pickups. The Phoenix coming in at the last possible second to save the day. That could have been a lot worse if the Phoenixes were, say, over in the bottom right for some reason. That probably could have been a lot worse. But the Phoenix come at the last second to save the day. Barely don't save the Colossus. But now with them still being alive, they can chase down some of these units. Good drop on the tank to at least save that, but loses the medevac, and Goblin holds on to his third. And actually, I would say cleans that up kind of well. I mean, the loss of a Colossus is usually a big deal, but again, if his priority, well, I guess you can't really, I don't know. I was gonna say, like, if your priority is getting to carriers, but you still need a certain number of Colossus to at least appear threatening until that carrier count gets up, so I don't know. Good grab in that medevac control from Goblin. Starting to shine a little bit now that he's not the one being attacked all the time. Looks like something did attack his pylon, though, but only to power the fleet beacon. So what, he's not going to go into range? I was wondering if that was really so useful that quickly, I should say. I think Phoenix range is very useful the longer, well, not the longer the game goes. If you're going to still have Phoenix and they are going to go into Vikings, I think the range is useful, but the way, the time he got in the first game I thought was like, is it necessary? Is it? I don't know. Oh, no, doesn't matter. We have a new approach. A new challenger appears from HeRoMaRinE. We talked a lot about how you can deal with this composition, and I threw out the factory. You can try and do Thors against this. I think that's his third factor on the way. It is indeed. So I assume this does go into Thors eventually, but right now it is for tanks. So we'll see. I mean, his idea could be to build tanks against the disruptors. Or maybe he's going to try and kill him. You know, I think he's just going to try and kill him. I think that's why he's building tanks. He's going to kill the Colossus-based ground army, and the Phoenixes can only lift up so many tanks. Or none at all if they get focus fired. And the carrier count's not going to be too high yet. So, yeah, I think that's what HeRoMaRiNE's more focused on. Drop in the main's going to get cleaned up, but it will pull the Phoenix out of position. Drop to the left side's going to get a couple of probes, and probably die. It's kind of a funny number of interceptors chasing after that, so not so much. Oh, no, he's gonna go to Thors. Okay. Alright, so here's the thing. I actually think that HeRoMaRiNE's composition is gonna be really good right now. Goblin lost a Colossus, so he's at least replaced one more Colossus than he usually would. Ooh, he hasn't. Ooh, that's actually really important. So if he had replaced a third Colossus, and then maybe even got to a fourth Colossus, then his disruptors are literally at 0 for a very long time. I think the faster Goblin gets to disruptors, the better off he'll be against the Thors. So I'm happy to see that he is building a disruptor, but it is only one robo, and I think you need more than a couple of disruptors to really take down someone who's producing 3 Thors at a time. Because HeRoMaRiNE has gotten up to, kind of similar to the first game on Pillars, he got up to a good economy, he got up to 4 bases. I'm not sure HeRoMaRiNE thinks seriously about this push. I'm not sure Goblin actually did have a real attack, but trying to take advantage of the unsieged tanks that are Marines. I'm not sure Goblin has seen the Thors yet. He saw a second factory. So that, you know, with Goblin being the guy who does this, he's probably played against a lot of styles. So that might, to him, actually say he's going into Thors. And that's, I think, where maybe you do hurriedly chrono out a bunch of disruptors if you know your opponent's going into Thors. Because not much else on the ground is going to help you against those Thors right now. Some people would be like, well, aren't Immortals really good against the Thors too? Yes, but with the number of Thors versus the number of Immortals that Goblin could get, no. Yes, but no. We talk about like 2 Immortals versus like 5 Thors. And they also would kill the Thors too slowly, I think. But anyways. Okay, well, this is a very awkward start for Goblin. He actually tries to chase down an army to the right side, which forces his army to go over this little rock formation. So he loses the Colossus, loses the Disruptor. At least the carriers have no problem going over there. The tanks are that important element that are forcing the disruptors to stay away from the Thors. But eventually the Thors will be dragged closer to the carriers, so, you know, eventually the idea is that disruptors will get some pretty good hits. But it is, you know, there's a couple of different lines of battle here. It's like playing Gwent, right? There's like lines to it. And if the Thors on the very front line, they could be bopped by the disruptor, but then they're actually hitting the carrier. But if they're behind the tanks, then they're safe from the disruptors, but then the carriers take care of the tanks, you know? So we'll see what happens here. Well, the Thors are on the front line, take care of one of the carriers, and the disruptors are like, we're gonna do our thing, we're gonna do our thing. They did not. They got blasted away by the tanks. Utterly and entirely blasted away. Now, if they can at least force the Thor to disengage, it's gonna give those interceptors time to actually try and chew them down, actually kill them, but the carriers will have to run away. The actual carrier themselves will have to run away, because Thors do have a pretty fearsome attack. They're like, okay. They're like pretty good. And I really like that HeRoMaRinE has gone into double upgrades for them as well. So I'm not sure Goblin has actually ever gotten to an ideal number of units. Still not maxed out. Back down to 0 disruptors. I mean, charge lots would have helped a little bit against the tanks, you know, because then HeRoMaRinE has to focus his Thors and he has to focus his tanks, and maybe he missed micros, but you know, that never came into play, so Twilight Council. Double drop in the main is very effective, depowering a lot of things. Not depowering the Robo quite yet, but going after the Nexus. Goblin is entirely focused on the front push. He knows how this could go, but his army just isn't there yet. The Robo was sniped, by the way. I love that retarget from the HeRoMaRinE. I don't think Goblin can hold on to this. I think he plays Migrant Toss. I think he just runs to their side of the map. Oh lord, it is a concave too. The Thors are gonna get all their shots. Yeah, that's not gonna work. That's not gonna work. I think HeRoMaRinE, just with like the knowledge of like if it's not the 2-base push, it's gonna be the macro game. I think that really just makes him so much more powerful, because he can then get his untouched, really good economy on 4 bases, 5 bases now, and immediately go into Thors with confidence. I think that is one of the weaknesses of Goblin. You know, as I was saying in the second game, he's like, he can be like it's not actually a one-trick pony, but it feels like when he's got a trick, he uses it, and then he moves on to the next trick. But there's always something a little bit weird about Goblin that you kind of have to figure out, and when you do figure that out, he doesn't get much farther in a tournament. As for Goblin, by the way, stuck on that +2. What the fuck was that? What did that kill? I don't even know what I killed. Did he kill Phoenix to build more carriers? Didn't work. I'm not sure what that is. Well, anyways. So another Robo was built. He's on 3 Robos? Okay, I missed those 2. Hello. But he can't afford to produce 3 disruptors at a time. Goblin did never quite accrue the same bank he did on Pillars. And he has tried defending these bases, so it's also lost him resources. So otherwise could have been banking for a big ol' triple disruptor production. Goblin, maybe if he can get to like 7 disruptors? I don't know though. I don't know, man. HeRoMaRinE is gonna have really good upgrades on his Thors too. So we're talking about 3-2 on the Thors. Oh, Jesus. You can see that all the Thors, or most of them anyways, are in the single target mode. You do want to go after the carriers. They'll destroy the carriers, especially after they're EMP'd. Goblin, I think, is kind of like... he's trying to go into Immortals, but, I mean... Honestly, Immortals, even if he had gotten to like 10 of them, I don't think actually work out. Immortals are like hypothetically this like really hard counter to mech, and they're fairly hard countery, but it's more like a soft counter. And And so much of this game had to do with just the pacing of it. The Goblin's army is going to be destroyed. We finally saw at least some of the effects of the Disruptor is actually getting those, like, 5 Thors down to red, but he just didn't have enough of them to actually clean everything up. So, GG.